Welcome back to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend, Bri and Court.
Hi.
The intention of the show is to bring together men and women to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural masculine and feminine energetic core. This is going to be a really good show. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to my friend Bri. If you're new to our work, she is genius, and her work in the world is...
You're so kind. I help really high-achieving, driven women come into their empowered feminine energy and attract healthy, empowered masculine partners, as well as sometimes grow their businesses, depending on the clientele. I'm also formally trained in sex, love, and intimacy work, so that comes into the conversation a lot about re-accessing and embracing our pleasure for vulva owners. And what else? Somatic-based. Everything is body-based healing for Courtney and I. Yeah. Courtney is genius.
Thank you.
Tell us why.
So sweet. I really love working from the body up, whether it's setting boundaries, shifting your relationship with food or your body, or how you're showing up in relationships. The body has so much information to share with us, and when we can learn how to interpret that in a way that is both empowering but also feels more congruent, we get to show up more authentically and bolder in the areas of life that we have been historically struggling with. So I like to use that generational trauma lens to see kind of where this may have been coming from, and then we can work backwards from, like I said, the body up. I find that super powerful. Yes. Would you say that you're doing more relationship coaching than business coaching?
Right now, yeah. I tend to go seasonally.
Same, yeah.
And I love that duplicity, having both those parts. I have a great business brain and I love helping women with that. And then I also love feminine, masculine energy, intimacy, and relationship work. And I find that is where I really shine as well. It's actually in my human design chart. I learned this recently. I re-looked at my human design chart, and the cross
Which is also
part,
mine, so tell me.
Yeah, we're very similar human designs. We might have this part different though.
Okay.
Because it's like right angle of the blah, blah, blah. You seen that part? Something cross, whatever. I never knew what it meant, but I finally looked mine up, and it was like your soul path is around helping people with interpersonal relationships. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh, that's incredible. That's perfect.
Yeah, we're in the feminine energy realm right now, but I think business will come back up in 2024. We shall see.
Well, it's funny because they do overlap so much. Like with me, health stuff, I ran into, you actually can only make so many changes before you need new skills in your partnership. The dynamic has to shift for you to 100%. Continue moving forward. I would say the same with business. You have to do some shifting in your business to show up better in your relationships, and then vice versa. They kind of feed off each other.
Yeah, that's how I got into the relationship world, was helping so many women grow their businesses. And then our calls were mostly 45 minutes of, it's hard for me to show up because I have this, long story short, unhealthy dynamic with my partner that's stunting all my creative energy. Or I'm over-functioning in my masculine, I'm burnt out, I can't perform in my business. So that was where it all began a few years ago.
Yep, love it.
Anyway.
Love it. Okay, diving in.
Yes.
This time, what are we talking about?
Just went to a wedding recently, so that song was on during the wedding.
I love it.
We're talking about empowered vulnerability with men. This is such a hot topic. Please listen to the whole thing. We've got some juice for you, regardless of your gender identity. I think this is going to be really helpful, but particularly those who identify as masculine. There are so many speculations and beliefs and things that make men, what we've heard, feel dehumanized. But at the same time, they tend to express almost like a loyalty to the principles because it impacts how they think about themselves and their self-worth as a man.
So well said. Yes, so well said. Yeah, because they don't see that there's multiple facets that you can disagree with one of them and not throw away the whole thing.
It's like a yes and.
Yes.
It's like, yes, we love this, and we need to shift because things are shifting. The dynamic between partners is shifting, particularly men and women.
Yeah. Ooh, so well said. So in terms of vulnerability and masculine partnership, we have a whole episode, a whole masterclass on this if you want to deep dive more in this.
You need it.
I'm just going to drop that in the show notes here. So, okay. start us off. What are your thoughts when you were like, ooh, let's talk about that? What was coming to mind?
What was coming to mind was that, I mean, you know I work with high achieving women. And there are two things that women really tell me they're craving in the dating and relationship world. I've said it before. Emotional labor division of the household labor, all of that, like who takes care of the house, and emotional intelligence, and being able to emotionally connect with the partner. And Courtney and I did a video, how long ago? Like when we've been slacking on our TikTok game, we'll just be honest. I'm sorry about that. But we did a video asking men, like, what would make them safe to share and open up more. And the video went pretty viral with responses. Hundreds, if not thousands of people were, thousands of comments.
We had 10,000 comments. Like, yeah.
Not 10,000 views. That's like baby viral. 10,000 comments.
That's a lot to comb through.
100%. And we would spend hours literally categorizing the responses. We made an episode describing them, by the way.
Yes.
Go back and check that out.
I totally forgot about that. Yes, we did.
Me too. But long story short, one of the things we noticed from men was also some of their own internalized patriarchal ideas, that because they were men, they weren't allowed to have emotional expression and they were supposed to just handle it and carry it all on their back and keep trucking forward. And it was so interesting to me as someone who works mostly with women, because all of the women I work with are like, I wish men would be more emotionally open and vulnerable. That's the biggest gap in the relationships. And then there were all these men being like, I'd love to open up, but I feel like I'm going to be shamed and ostracized.
Yeah, which makes both sides make total sense when you can see it through that lens. Like, obviously, you're not going to put yourself in harm's way if that's the paradigm that you're living in. And the paradigm that we would offer is that there is a really empowered masculine paradigm that women are craving, where men have an awareness of what's happening inside of them. There is nothing that makes me as a woman feel more safe than a man who is aware of his emotions, not necessarily like, that's what makes me feel unsafe.
Yes.
When they,
regardless of any gender, anyone doing that.
Right, yes. But to have an awareness and to be able to speak about it without that impulse to either like make me fix it or completely withhold it. There's this spectrum of, I think maybe because it's a newer skill, we just maybe lack the confidence to regulate that spectrum with ease.
Yeah,
I would imagine. I'm guessing. Guys, let me know if that feels true. But yeah, that's kind of my thought on it.
And a lot of the men that wrote in shared that they had experiences where they felt like women were turned off by their vulnerability. We want to offer you a new way forward, as Courtney had said, a yes and, although I'm not saying yes and to them being turned off. Well, maybe I kind of am. I'm thinking out loud at this moment. I kind of am saying yes and, aren't I? Here's what I'm about to say. We want to offer the men a different way forward and give you some clarity on if that's the response you're getting, what's probably happening, so that you can start to open up and share your emotions with your partner and build that emotional intimacy, which is so good, but in a way that honors your polarity still, and keeps you both, as one of our mentors, Leah, often says, in your life wraps. By the way, the same conversation would apply if we were talking about a mother and a daughter sharing, or Courtney and I sharing, whatever it might be. This is just how to openly, vulnerably share what's coming up for you and do it in a way that invites intimacy versus repels a partner.
Yep. The life raft theory or concept is like you both have your own float here. You can't hop on someone else's, they can't hop on yours. You both want to be floating side by side. That is intimacy, is to just kind of float through the river together. So genius. I haven't seen anyone else say that except her, but it is one of the things that is a game changer. So, okay. Scene, back on track.
Yes, we are.
So typically when men are experiencing that, and that was such a common pattern that they kept saying, like, women don't want this from us. And if that is the sentiment that you're having, I would be curious if you are, when you are expressing your emotions, if there is part of you that is either unsure how much to share and therefore you either leave yourself feeling very vulnerable or you kind of withhold. If that is something that you need to figure out, like where that line is, that takes time. I just want to like real practical strategy here. Like that knowledge takes time based on how the person responds. So if you are, and this was something else that men did share in that video, is that they would share little things, and if she would freak out, they're like, nope, never again. If that's the case, yeah, that's a partnership dynamic thing, but that's something to be aware of is, I almost
know what
wanted,
you're saying.
Thank you. Help me finish here.
Don't feel like you need to share with unsafe people. Like this is not about my body's telling me don't open, but open anyway. You know, if somebody is showing themselves as unsafe, honor that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that is probably one of the things that when we were reading those comments, we were like, this is a gap here.
Yeah.
We're not saying that you need to be vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable. Like, yeah, you are being vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable, but like you aren't putting yourself out there knowingly in harm's way again and again and again. That's unhealthy in any gender dynamic. Like that's just not healthy. You want to be able to share something and then experience how it feels to be responded to. And I think a lot of times maybe because this is a new skill, men either dig way down and share something that's super vulnerable and their partner has not built that rapport with them or the capacity. Thank you. You haven't witnessed their capacity, and therefore you get this experience of them being turned off or you being dropped, which is the same for women. We would coach women in the same way when you're sharing. My train just left the station.
Are you also having Moody?
Yes. I mean,
it's so real.
We're syncing back up. That's good.
That's good. We're back in sync.
Okay. Where I was going with that,
you were saying you would also coach women on testing even potential friendships or with mom and dad, like how much you share based on how safe someone shows up as.
Yes. And I think where the breakdown also is happening is trusting yourself in that. Like my question that kept coming up is like, if you consistently feel unsafe with your feminine partner to share your emotions, that needs to be a conversation. Like a healthy person would have that conversation instead of either continuing the relationship for whatever reason. You know, maybe you're married, maybe societal pressure, maybe whatever. But a lot of these were from dating context from what I was gathering. And I was like, why are we still trying to engage in a way that's A, not helping the other person help you feel safe, and B, you're just continually exposing yourself, which is going to re-traumatize that part of you that's already feeling a little wobbly.
Yeah, that's such a good point. You're saying the comments were men being like, well, I kept trying to open to her and she kept not receiving it well. And Courtney saying, why would you keep, but this person has proven that they're not safe. So the healthy thing to do is to have a meta conversation with them around, hey, I'm noticing I want to open up, but you're, bless you.
Thank you.
You are, oh, it's the mailman. If you heard that in the background.
I'm wanting to open up, but I'm not feeling like I can because this is my experience. That's going to be a very probably intense conversation and feel really vulnerable to have. But if you as a man are also wanting emotional intimacy, you have to. Yeah. You deserve to have that conversation just as much as a woman does. And we talk a lot from the vantage point of women because that's our experience. But if a man were to say, and has said, hey, I don't feel very safe when you respond this way, and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Gut check. I need to be working on that. You're right.
And a healthy partner, feminine partner, is gonna receive that and gut check herself, right? Oh, okay. Well, what would you need from me? What would that look like? I mean, my partner and I talked about that recently. Not that he came forward with feedback of like, I don't feel safe. He was more like, hey, I really just need a lot of listening right now, right? For out of context reason. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And several times I've gone into like women talk for connection, This is a sidebar tangent, but this is my job. I would come in and like relate or almost interrupt because I was getting excited because I love his brain so much. Yeah. And then I would see his face change in his body and I'd be like, I'm really sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead. It's probably happened dozens of times as I've been like kicking the habit and focusing on even more being an active listener. And it's interesting because he always says, I'm the best listener he's ever met. Like, he's like, this is one of my favorite things about you. But in my head, I'm thinking, I need to get better at this because I want you to be able to keep opening. I care about knowing all these things, you know? Just like to talk to you so much. So anyway, a healthy feminine partner is going to be receptive to that and accountable. She's going to want to work on it because she wants to know your heart.
Yeah, it's true. And that, I think, is... So that's the caveat nuance here. We always have some nuance happening, is that yes, you don't want to continually expose yourself to an unsafe person.
Yeah.
And I would still say a super empowered and healthy person is going to take some time as that pattern shifts. Just like you, we have to have some patience for our partner to unwind the patterns. Once you bring it to their awareness, it may be a month or 2 months or 3 months for that pattern to unwind because it's been, you know, maybe a lifetime of helping them, you know, like it's been advantageous for them to use that skill. And so it's going to be an unlearning process for them too, that you have to be available for if you want to see that shift. So yes, don't keep exposing yourself in a deeper way, but you will have to continue testing and trusting and testing and trusting to build that rapport with the person as they're shifting. So kind of take like periodic checks of, I'm going to share something vulnerable and see how you respond, and 2 weeks later I'm going to share something that makes me feel vulnerable, or a week. You know, there's not a specific timeline here, but that's what I would probably recommend to see, is as someone that can and will shift so that we can have more emotional intimacy.
Yes. Yeah. And the flip side of what you were just saying, I think, is important too. You were saying a healthy partner wouldn't keep on just sharing even though they know they're emotionally not safe. Healthy partner also, we don't want you to just close down and stop sharing but stay in the relationship and suffer. That's not fair to your partner either, because they're probably thinking, gosh, I want him to open. She's probably definitely thinking, gosh, I want him to open up more, and isn't aware that what she's doing is making you feel that way. You know, one of the common things we heard from men is, I don't want to tell her stuff because then she tells her sister and her mom. And men interpret, as we're learning, right, that men are more like vaults. And they expect it to stop with that one person and not go anywhere. Women, our lifeblood is connection, typically. We want to share the details with our friends and family because they care about us and it's our experience and we're building that relationship. So this is a learning curve for a lot of women. You know, for a lot of men, the boundary is, I don't want that shared anywhere. If she doesn't know that that's your boundary, you can't keep faulting her for it. You got to explicitly say it. Otherwise, you're not doing anything to shift or make the relationship healthy. You're just staying in dysfunction and functioning.
Trying to make it function.
Yeah. By just shutting down, oh, well, I guess I can't open up to her. It's like, have you given her the opportunity to grow into someone that you could open up to? Right? You would want the same grace, which is what Court was saying. You would want the same grace if you were shifting a behavior.
Ladies, if that's something you struggle with, we have the masterclass for you too.
Oh my God.
I'm dropping that in the show notes. It is genius. If your man is shutting down, here's what you need to know to help him open up, to become a safe person. These are just general habits that safe people practice. I don't say have because it's not fixed, but they practice. They practice on a regular basis, and these are some things that you might want to be aware of that could be causing that shutdown. Yeah, I love that you said that, because the flip is not to shut down and hold everything in. It is also really empowered to be able to hold yourself in the same, I think, the same way. What we were saying is, like, we don't want to be dumped on. You have to have a certain amount of ability to hold yourself.
Ooh, this is the next key part.
In those vulnerable moments, so that you can offer the information and the connection point to your partner. I think that's the pendulum kind of swings from oversharing and kind of dumping, and your wife, your partner, your female partner is going to be like, whoa, that's a lot. I don't know what to do with all that, except to try and help you fix it. That's kind of like knee-jerk reaction. Or you're going to shut down and completely keep everything to yourself. And the healthy middle ground is, I can hold myself enough that if this doesn't go well and I test this and you don't respond well, I'm not going to be so fragile that I crumble. I can still hold myself and say, I didn't like how you responded. Can we talk about how I need, like what I need in order to keep opening?
Yeah. If you're with a mostly healthy feminine partner who makes you feel safe to open, but she's expressed to you that it's a turn off, or you're noticing it in her body language, or for whatever reason that's coming up, right? Like I don't think she's into this. It's a good point to gut check. Am I in unintentionally wounded feminine territory where I'm actually dumping and spilling, and then her parts feel overwhelmed, they feel dumped on, they feel like they need to jump in and save you and fix you and change the, make the problem go away. That feels really overwhelming, even in a friend dynamic, right? Or a client to mentor dynamic. It's so common if clients come in and they're like, all this chaos is happening, now you take it, what do you do? And I'm sure you have the same conversation with your clients. It's like about reframing that and seeing that you actually have the power to handle this. So what's the green light for empowered masculine is, of course, he's going to share empowered and open up his heart, but he's got himself. And that's palpable in healthy dynamics. He's sharing to create intimacy, to let you see his heart. But I know at the end of the day, my partner's going to go lead himself. He's going to get the support. He's going to take care of it. I don't need to baby or fix or whatever. And he wouldn't want me to, because then I would be in mothering. And what does that make him? Child energy. And polarity doesn't exist there.
Nope.
And honestly, I think that's where a lot of people burn out. Partners dump on each other and then overfunction, and then polarity flip-flops.
Yep. Ooh. If you didn't listen, our last episode is about overfunctioning and boundaries. Go listen to that too. Because if you are finding that you are constantly having to be the emotional overfunctioner, whether it's having to go reach out to your partner and keep kind of like warming the connection, or you're having to be dumped on and kind of like, hold all this stuff all the time, it's too close of quarters to expect either one of those roles to be a long-term healthy role. And if you're in that role for too long, you will burn out. Healthy people will burn out in that role. Even listeners, therapists, like, they need self-care and time and space to process and be with themselves. And if you're going to dump on, like for me, if I'm with someone who is requiring a lot of emotional energy from me, I am going to need that much time to myself to restore my own sense of like balance. I know that about myself. And so to be in situations where that is consistently happening, you have to know about yourself what you need to replenish. Same goes for men. You need to know what your partner needs to replenish if you are going to be sharing in a certain way, or if you're going to be sharing in a certain way. That's just helpful for your partner to know, so that it doesn't trigger their abandonment or their sense of, you may be reading it as turn off, and I'm not saying that that's not happening, that you're not witnessing that correctly. But if she's experiencing a sense of turn off, it's usually because it's tipped the balance for her and she doesn't know what to do. And now she needs to be able to like go in and like figure out what's happening for me. Why am I feeling this way? So that I can come forward as the feminine partner that I want to be. I just don't have resources for that right now because I've been capsized.
Totally. She's sensing the wounded feminine energy, and then her body is recalibrating because naturally her pull is to go into her masculine and like hold the frame or fix or support, and that can be confusing. So if it looks like, again, you're witnessing turn off, I would be curious how you're sharing. And again, the green flag is, can you share from an energy, like sit with it until you feel the energy of, I've got myself and I'm going to open to create connection, not open to put this on somebody. You know what I mean? And even using that verbiage with her can set the boundary so that she doesn't feel like she has to take it on. You can just say, I want to share this with you. I want you to know, like, I've got it. I've got myself. I just want you to know what's going on in my life. And there's nothing that you need to do other than listen. Like, let her off the hook. I think you're going to get a really different experience. And then follow through. Lead your life. Because that's the other question. Are you leading your life? Or are you mostly in your wounded feminine? Are you really holding that posture of wounded feminine and like wanting someone to swoop in and save you? Or are you actually taking accountability and shifting it for yourself?
Yes.
That's a meteor. But the truth is, if you find yourself dumping and venting and all those things, there might be a leak with not leading your life, which is, we want to look at that, not just the behavior change. As we always say, it's not what you do, it's the energy you do it from.
Yes. Yes.
Am I breathing coffee breath on you?
No.
You haven't noticed? Oh, food allergies. We
Our
are
sinuses are a little,
now.
we're perfect.
One sleepy, one allergy prone.
We're perfect. No, I think that is absolutely critical as well, is to set the tone. That's like, if you want to stay in your masculine energy as you are sharing vulnerably, set the tone for what the purpose of sharing is. I want to share this with you because I want you to know. And I don't expect you to do anything with it. I want to vent to you because I just want to talk this out. I feel angry and I need to share this with you. You don't have to do anything with it, and I just want you to know. All of those things give her a heads up, and I don't know about your system, but my nervous system, if a man tells me I just need, I'm like, oh, okay.
I know my role.
Yep, I can do that. It diffuses a situation so quickly, even if they're supercharged and need to vent and they're frustrated about something, to just say like, I'm frustrated, I need to vent. Can you listen? Got you.
Yeah.
I am here for it. Versus like, that feels like dumping. And it's just the micro shift, that practical shift between acknowledging that you're about to say something that is going to be difficult for them to handle if they're not in the emotional space. We'll let them have a second to like, got you.
I'm in. Yeah, 100%. And it also I have found it gives me more permission as the person sharing. I was telling you, I told my friend Mel yesterday, I texted her, I need to vent about a situation for like 20 minutes. Any chance you have a space to just listen to me rant and not hold me to it later on? I probably don't mean what I'm going to say. I really just need to get it out, and I don't know who to get it out with. And she was like, ready. Call me immediately. And then I didn't feel any, am I taking up too much space? Does she really want to listen? I don't know if men relate to this. Feel free to write it and tell us. But women, we often have this time clock of who's been speaking the longest. And when is it time to pass the ball and ask a question? So it's nice when you have that freedom with your friends that this call is just about you venting. And I'm just going to listen and push the car with you. You know what? That is hard. You are doing a good job, right? And then I feel like I can totally, okay. I feel better. Thank you so much. What's going on in your world? If I want to, or we just end the call. So anyway, works with women too.
Amazing. Yeah. So well said. I feel complete in that. What else is coming up for you?
Oh, I was just going to say, no way did I expect her to fix it. I didn't expect her to give me, I didn't even want advice, to be honest, because here's the posture of my heart when I was sharing it. I knew what I was going to do about it already.
Yes. Yep.
I knew what I was going to do about it. I knew the solution. I just needed the emotional offload.
Clear out
somebody
space.
Yes, to just let, when you're like, all right, the solution is X, but like, wow, this freaking sucks. Right now, I can't discharge this energy. So I offloaded it with her and didn't dump it on her so it didn't deplete her, and then we could move on, and I knew how to move forward. That will keep you in a clean energy too. And you can even start with, I already know how I'm gonna handle this, but the energy's still in my body. Can I just vent for a minute?
Brilliant.
Feel free to tell people time limits too, by the way. Talk about boundaries. You can say, I think you might have said this to me before or shared a story about it. Like, I have about 20 minutes, XYZ time, call me then. That also, boundaries make people feel safe. The same way that kids feel safer knowing the boundaries, right? And knowing the rules, and there's better outcomes in parenting when they know the rules versus having no rules. We are all humans. We do better with a little expectation like that. So we can kind of, like Courtney said, roll up your sleeves and be there. So, okay, end rant.
That was genius. I'm glad you added that. Yes, we would love to know. Feel free. I'm going to put a text box below this episode. We would love to know what your experience has been when you have shared in an empowered way. What was the corrective experience for you like? And what was the lesson for you in it that maybe you hadn't known before that moment?
Great. And if you want more support, men or women, Courtney, what do you have going on?
Let me think. For this particular content, I mean, Arise and Rooted, they are partner programs, and they work so well, whether you're on the masculine side for Rooted or the Arise, the feminine side. It really is about clarifying what it is that you need in the relationship in order to show up as the empowered masculine or feminine partner for yourself. Supported is another one that comes to mind. I did a masterclass on the dynamics at play, especially when there are some kind of skewed boundaries. I know that kind of plays into the last episode that we did, but that would also be really appropriate for this particular topic.
Love it.
Yeah, and the masterclasses. Honestly, the masterclasses, such a
It's
low cost way to dive into this work. There's a masculine and a feminine one, and then a triggers one, which is, I think, exceptional. You can get all three of them for like $150. It's a snag, especially if this is something that you are having questions about learning how to do this. We break it down in actionable steps of here's where you put your foot, you put the weight over here, you shift this way, and now you're dancing like this. It is really, I'm super proud of those masterclasses.
Me too.
So
I think they're like the unsung hero.
The dark horse for sure.
I have to think it's because we give so much free content that is so juicy.
Yeah.
But you guys, you're sleeping on this. They're amazing. Courtney and I have like had mapping out sessions of, all right, what will we need to teach them? Because you have to understand, we do this for free. We don't get paid for the podcast right now. We produce the whole thing ourselves. We love to do it. It's from the generosity of our heart. And it supports our coaching practices because a lot of you resonate and then you come in for private coaching. And that's the work we do in the world. But these masterclasses, there is a difference in the quality and the intentionality of information in the classes. The podcast, we don't really write out. We pretty much like hive brain and we're like, you think we should talk about that. Okay, great. Let's just freeform, The masterclasses we've intentionally looked at step by step. Oh, your man isn't opening up to you? Let's unpack it.
Yeah.
Step 1.
Reverse engineer that problem.
Step 2, here are your skill sets you need to learn. Here are examples, like they're meaty.
Scripts, examples, skills specifically to help bolster that situation for you. Also what to share with him, vice versa. It is, we were super intentional about how we mapped those out.
Very
and they
valuable.
are really good.
They should be more, each one should be a lot more money, but they are what they are. So anyway, it's $150 for all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Get it for you and your partner. Watch them together. It's amazing.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. I don't think you shared what you have, but
Just look in the show notes. I have a mastermind coming out for women who want to be in their empowered feminine energy and attract healthy love, and private coaching enrolling. buildingbri.com, at buildingbri coaching on Instagram. I just started a new Instagram. Instagram doesn't like pleasure education, but I do. So I still have courses. That's more important. All right. We will see you next week.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.